Hey everyone! Today, let's talk about one of the most beloved modern saints, Saint John Bosco. His feast day is on January 31st, and he was this incredible priest and educator who had a radical idea. He believed that kindness wasn't just, a nice feeling, it was a system. And honestly, that system changed pretty much everything.
So, that's the big question, right? How on earth did a single priest, back in 19th century Italy, create a legacy that now shapes how we think about youth education and ministry all over the world? To figure that out, we got to go back to the very beginning. To really get him, you have to see the world he saw, the world that made him who he was, and the people he just knew he had to help. See, his story doesn't start in some quiet, peaceful monastery. Nope. It starts right on the tough, bustling streets of his time.
So most people know him as Don Bosco. Don is just the traditional Italian title for a priest. But he was so much more than that title. He really became a father figure to thousands of kids, and his methods kicked off this revolution in how the church and even society cared for its youngest and most vulnerable.
But this whole mission of his, it wasn't something that just popped into his head one day. Its roots go all the way back to his own childhood, where the seeds of his empathy and his really unique approach were first planted.
John Bosco's early life was tough. He was born into a poor farming family and lost his dad when he was only 2 years old, so he knew exactly what it felt like to be left out. He was raised by his amazing mother, Mama Margaret, and she taught him how to be resilient and compassionate, lessons that, you'll see, defined his entire life.
And check this out. This is where you see the spark of his whole idea right from the start. Even as a little kid, he was a natural entertainer. He'd put on magic shows, walk a tightrope, whatever it took to get a crowd of other kids together. But once he had their attention, he'd share a simple prayer. You see the pattern? Joy first, then teaching. That was his formula from day one.
So, fast forward a bit. He grows up, becomes a priest, and he brings that same spirit to the industrial city of Turin. But there, his childhood mission comes face to face with this huge citywide crisis. The Industrial Revolution was roaring, and it was creating a whole generation of lost kids.
You have to picture it. Turin was just flooded with young boys who'd left their homes to find work. But what they really found was exploitation. They were often homeless, working in terrible factories, with zero education, no family, and absolutely no one looking out for them. Most people saw them as a problem, but Don Bosco, he saw something completely different.
So what was his big idea to solve this? The oratory. And this wasn't just a school or a church, it was a home. It was a playground, a classroom, and a chapel, all rolled into one amazing community. He created a space where these forgotten boys could just be kids again, where they could play, learn a trade, and feel loved. He named it after Saint Francis de Sales, a saint who is famous for his patience and gentle spirit. Makes sense, right?
Okay, and this is the absolute heart of his genius. He didn't just create a place, he created a totally revolutionary new method for education. He called it his preventive system, but you could honestly just call it a system built entirely on kindness.
You really have to understand just how radical this was for his time. The typical classroom back then was harsh. It was all about punishment and fear. Don Bosco just threw that entire model out the window. His way was based on love, it was built on trust, and it was all about helping kids actually grow.
So his system breaks down into 3 simple but really powerful pillars. First, reason, rules that actually made sense and were applied fairly to everyone. Second, religion. Faith was something to bring you joy, not something to be afraid of. And third, the absolute core of it all, kindness. The Italian word he used was amorevolezza. It means this loving presence, a way of being there that lets every single kid know they are seen and they are valued. That was the engine for the whole thing.
Now, a system this powerful, it wasn't going to stay in just one city with just one man. Don Bosco knew his work had to keep going, so he built a structure to make sure it would spread, not just across the globe, but through generations.
So, to keep the ball rolling, he did something brilliant. He founded the Salesians, an order of priests and brothers who would carry on his work. And then, with St. Mary Mazzarello, he co-founded a sister order, the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians, to do the same amazing work for young girls. Today, these are some of the biggest religious orders in the entire world, running schools and youth centers just about everywhere.
So what's the takeaway for us right now? Well, his influence is literally everywhere. He's the patron saint for young people and for educators. His whole approach of building relationships through friendship and joy, that's basically the foundation for all modern youth ministry. And maybe most important of all,
He's this timeless advocate for one simple, powerful idea. Every single child deserves to be treated with dignity. It all boils down to this one simple but incredible idea. It's a profound truth. A kid's worth isn't something they have to earn, it's just there. It's inherent. And the job of any educator or parent or mentor is to provide the love, education, and opportunity that helps that worth shine.
And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. Don Bosco used his system of kindness to build a future for boys who were told they didn't have one. In a world that's still dealing with its own crises, loneliness, poverty, division, it leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about. If kindness was our system, what could we build with it today?